Hi everyone, I'm Jane Matsumoto from the Japanese American Cultural and Community Center here in Los Angeles, California. And we are going to be visiting Tsuruoka City in Yamagata Prefecture today to learn about its special heirloom crop, the Atsumi Kabu. The Atsumi Kabu is a very unique and special turnip that is grown only in Tsuruoka, and in fact, that is one of the reasons why it earned the city its specially designated UNESCO Creative City of Gastronomy. Derek is going to show us how the Atsumi Kabu is prepared, harvested, and made into a delectable dish for all of us to enjoy. Here's back to you, Derek.
All right, thank you so much, Jane. And yes, today we're here in Tsuruoka City in a region of Tsuruoka called Atsumi. It's a coastal region at the southern end of Tsuruoka City, and from the coastline we drove about 30 minutes into the mountains, deep on the mountain road. And we came here to harvest and introduce a very special crop here called Atsumi Kabu. These are one of the most famous heirloom crops of Tsuruoka City, and they have a very, very deep history. There's a lot of special techniques to protect them and to grow them. And to help explain that, we have a very special food guide with us today. Her name is Haruka Chubachi-san, and she'll be here to tell us more about these Atsumi Kabu. And we're actually here in Atsumi during the harvesting season for Atsumi Kabu, and it's a very short window actually, because from the burning to the planting of the seeds, which takes place on September 3rd and 7th of this year, in only about 2 months the Kabu have grown to their full size. And the harvesting season is actually very strict because they have to harvest the Kabu before the snow starts. And in this area, the snow is probably going to start in maybe a few weeks. And the reason why it's so important to harvest them before then is because once it starts snowing, it's going to be very, very hard to get out into the mountains here and also dangerous. So we're actually here with farmers today who are harvesting, but they're very, very hard at work because they have to harvest this entire mountain very, very soon. 味が違いますか？
味違います。こっちは辛くて、なんだろう、水分も少なくてパリッとした感じ。
Okay, and so right here, this is the, these are the same seeds. They're from the same seeds. They're from the same fields here. Again, this is the round one. This is just a regular red, what do you call it? The akakabu. And so I'm told that this one, it should have a lot more moisture in it. It should be much more juicy. So we'll give it a shot. It tastes like a fruit almost. It's really sweet. Yeah. The texture is almost like an apple. Alright, so right now I'm gonna try out tasting the Atsumi Kabu. And again, this one's the more the flat one. It's not like the round juicy one, so I'm told that the flavor is also very different. It should have a peppery, kind of a spicy taste, so we'll try. It is. The other one was very sweet. It was really juicy. This one's more dry, and definitely does have that kind of a spice to it, like a little bit of a spicy flavor. The texture is totally different too. Very good. And before we go into the fields here and learn more about the Kabu with Haruka-san, one thing I want to talk about is that I want to introduce the area where we actually are, because we're actually very deep in the mountains, and it's actually a very inconvenient place to get to. When we're driving here, the road was very, very rocky. It had a lot of big boulders inside of it. But there's a reason why we go deep into these mountains. It's because actually these Atsumi Kabu, they're actually grown in a very special way, quite unlike any other crop. It's because they're grown in areas. They're only grown in areas where the trees have been recently cut down, and then what they'll actually do is they'll do a slash and burn to burn off all the other crops in this area, and that's for multiple reasons: to help remove other plants that might cross-pollinate with these, and also to help create more nutrients and ideal growing conditions for this very special type of Kabu. And Haruka-san, she just told me that, these Atsumi Kabu, they can of course be grown inside fields, and they are grown inside fields in other parts of Atsumi. But the reason why they go through such lengths to grow them deep in the mountains with such extensive growing efforts is because they say that by doing the slash and burn and by growing them deep in the mountains where the soil is so rich in freshly cut down trees, is because it greatly affects the color, the texture, and the flavors of these Atsumi Kabu. Alright, so now with Haruka-san, we're going to actually try harvesting some Atsumi Kabu for ourselves. It's probably pretty simple since we can see them in the ground. でも、Haruka-san、特別な取り方ありますか？まだただ。
取るときはここを掴む。ここを掴んで、まっすぐ引っ張るっていう形でやってみてください。
はい、ありがとうございます。So we just grab it by the stems, pull it up, and right here we have a beautiful example of Tsuruoka City's famous Atsumi Kabu here. これ綺麗ですね。もっと取っていいですか？
どうぞ。面白いですよね。
面白いですね。これ辛いですか？結構辛いですか？
辛い。
すごい辛いですか？So Haruka-san is also saying that depending on the size of the Atsumi Kabu, the spiciness actually goes up. So this really small one will be quite spicy, she says.
ぜひ食べてみて。
So right here we can see a good example of the yakihata, the burning of the mountains here that took place 2 months ago. So we have a lot of charcoal in this area, and Haruka-san was saying, she pointed out this area because you can see that because there's more charcoal, there's an especially large amount of charcoal right here where this turnip grew. You can see the color. It's kind of hard to see, but the color of this one is actually a lot darker shade. Is a much darker shade of pink. It's more of a purple color than the one that I harvested in a different area. So the charcoal is what allows these Atsumi Kabu to get their very distinctive and famous deep crimson color like this. Look at that. It's such a really beautiful purple color. And so we're out in the mountains. We've probably harvested about 30 Atsumi Kabu so far. And as we're out there, we actually found some special varieties or some abnormalities in the Kabu. So right here, this is an example of what we should be finding. These are the discular Atsumi Kabu and the more round-shaped Atsumi Kabu that can also be called Akakabu. And again, these are very spicy and these are very, very sweet. These are what we should be finding in the fields here. But we also found this one right here. If you look here, the shape of this one is entirely different from the Atsumi Kabu that we should find. And the reason for that is because Atsumi Kabu, just like all the heirloom crops here in Tsuruoka City, one of the reasons why they have such a special recognition by UNESCO is not only because they're very hard to grow in the mountains here and with special techniques, but they have to be protected. And when I say protected, it's not from monkeys, for example. It's because these crops can become cross-pollinated with other similar crops in the same family. So, for example, other daikon that also grow in the mountains here, they have the strong ability to mix and hybridize these Atsumi Kabu and also ruin them. So the farmers, they believe that this one right here, they believe that this is a hybrid between daikon, regular daikon, and Atsumi Kabu. And they're saying that this one it really has no value. They're saying that the flavor should be entirely different, the texture is probably very, very different from the Atsumi Kabu. And I actually want to give it a shot to just see how different it is. It's not very good. It's actually kind of, it's not spicy, it's not sweet, and it's actually kind of bitter. And it doesn't taste very good.
このカブの葉っぱも辛くてちょっと苦くて美味しい。
生でも食べ
れます。じゃあ食べてみますか。
So I'm told that we can cook these, but we can also eat the leaves raw. So we'll try it.
じゃあいただきます。辛い。
辛いです。
辛い。うん。
美味しいです。うん。なんかカブと同じ。
そう。同じ味。うん。
So again, the leaves here, you can cook them, and they're also the leaves are a very delicious dish as well. But even eating them raw, they have really great flavor. So, anyways, we finished our harvesting for today, and we have quite a load of very delicious Atsumi Kabu. Just now, we're going to take them to be prepared. So, Haruka-san, 今日ありがとうございました。はい。でもいい勉強になりましたし、すごい楽しかったです。
よかったです。
ありがとうございました。
また遊びに来てください。
ありがとうございます。And just one more thing before we go out and prepare our Atsumi Kabu is that if you look here, we have some of the sprouts of the new pine trees that they'll be planting here soon after they finish harvesting the Atsumi Kabu. And I heard another interesting story just before I left from Haruka-san is that a big challenge that the Atsumi Kabu heirloom crop is facing currently is that in the past, forestry here at Atsubi used to be a big industry. So the Atsumi Kabu farmers and the foresters would work together because the Atsumi Kabus, again, they needed the freshly cut down trees to grow their crops. But now there's hardly any industry of forestry here anymore. So the area of which people can grow Atsumi Kabu in the mountains is greatly decreasing. And so it's a threat that actually Atsumi and Tsuruoka City is trying to deal with right now in order to protect and continue growing this very, very special crop.
My gosh, the turnips look absolutely incredible, and I am amazed at how complex the growing system actually is and how they came up with such a process. But actually, Derek, what everybody here wants to know is, are these turnips available to purchase here in America?
Well, thank you, Jane. And actually, before I answer those questions, I'd first like to introduce you to where we're going next. So right here, we're in front of Honcho. This is a famous tsukemono factory here in Tsuruoka City. It's been in operation for more than 110 years. And to answer your questions, we actually have a very special guest who will be guiding us today. Let's take a look. Okay, so we're now inside Honcho. And the reason why we're here at a tsukemono factory is because Atsumi kabu, even though we had it raw inside the fields, the main way that Atsumi kabu is eaten here in Japan is actually in the form of this. This is tsukemono, Japanese pickled foods. It's a lot to take in, so to help us learn about tsukemono, we have a very special guest here, who I'll introduce right now. So, Honma-san, よろしくお願いします。
よろしくお願いします。漬物の本庁代表の本間と申します。よろしくお願いいたします。
そして本庁は何年前から始まりましたんですか？
はい、明治41年創業しましたので、113年前創業してます。
そして本間さんは何代目ですか？
私で4代目になります。じゃあこちらの方どうぞ。
ありがとうございます。Okay, so the first thing I want to point out here is that even though Honcho is over 113 years old and it's a very, very busy factory, it's all family owned, so they're very busy. They're so incredibly kind in that they've opened up their factory to the public, so you can actually get tours inside their factory. As you can see here, we're inside their factory space where they make their tsukemono. There's no walls here. There's no barriers. There's no glass windows. We're experiencing the factory as it really is, and so there's a lot to see here. And actually, Honma-san, he's going to introduce us about some of the things we're seeing here in this factory space. じゃあ、Honma-san、この部屋でこれはたくさんこういうものがあるんですけれども、
はい、
これは何ですか？
これはキラルと言いまして、一番最初に野菜が入ってきた時に塩漬けにするタレです。
そしてこれはどんな野菜使いますか？
こちらはルリーですね。
これ結構古そうですけど、これは最近のものではないですね。
はい、そうですね。
何年前ぐらいのものですか
？220年前のやつを今も使ってます。
これは漬物用のものですか？
もともとは酒樽だったんです。うちはもう漬物屋やる前は酒屋をやってまして、その時に使ってた酒樽をそのまま今漬物樽として使ってるって感じです。
このプラスチックで漬物を作ると、こういう木造の200歳の木造のもので作ると、はい、どんなことが変わりますか？
まずはですね、この木なので通気性があるんです。空気が通るというのと、あと木の中に菌が居ついているので、こちらの方が実は早く使われるような感じなんです。上と下のプラスチックだと一回ひっくり返さないと上と下で付け方の差が出るんですけれども、これだともうそういうことがしなくても均等に使えるっていう感じです。
そしてこれはあと何年間ぐらいこれが使えると思いますか？
そうですね、200年経っても全然汁が漏れてこないし、ただあと今これを作る職人の方がもういなくなってしまっているので、一回もう壊れたらもう直せないんです。ですのでもう大事に使おうと思ってます。
And by the way, I was just talking to Honma-san. I also asked him how much product can be put inside each of these barrels, and he told me 3 tons.
3トンですね。
3 tons.
Right.
Over 3 tons of vegetables, tsukemono can be produced inside of this. Alright, so earlier I was talking with Honma-san quite a lot. In this room right here, these large barrels, they all have sakekasu. And one of the unique points about the sakekasu here that Honcho uses is because Honcho is located in a small town called Oyama. And Oyama produces some of the most famous sake in all of Yamagata Prefecture, and by default, some of the most famous sake in Japan. And if you know anything about sake production, as you press the sake, you get sake liquid out of it, but you also get some leftover byproduct called sake leaves, or sakekasu in Japanese. And so what Japanese people do with the sakekasu, they don't just throw it away, they use it for cooking, but it's also an essential ingredient used to make tsukemono. So right here, this sakekasu stored here is from the local factories in Oyama. So they use the local sakekasu for their products here. Also, I learned that the sakekasu they use it for a lot of the zaya yasai. I heard that they use over about 30 different types of heirloom crops here in Tsuruoka. And so Homa-san, he was earlier telling me that the difference between the heirloom crops and the normal vegetables that are normally made for tsukemono, he says everything is totally different about them. The colors, the textures, you know, and in particular the shapes are entirely different. So they're able to produce an entirely unique product, a very high quality product that they ship across Japan. Okay, so now we're inside the factory. We're inside the portion of the factory where they make the Atsumi Kabu tsukemono. Okay, so we're now inside the factory here, and Homa-san was showing me that the first step in making the Atsumi tsukemono is that they'll first take the Atsumi Kabu, and then they'll put it into a solution of salt, sugar, and vinegar. And so if you look right here, you can see that the liquid that the Atsumi Kabu is placed into, it has a very, very deep crimson color, that very, very deep red purple color. And this is all natural coloring that seeps away from the Atsumi Kabu itself. Okay, so right here, these Atsumi Kabu, they finished the dyeing process. They finished the soaking process inside the sugar, salt, and vinegar. And so the next step here is actually right now this man he's soaking it in sweet vinegar. Okay, and for the last part of our tour, we're actually here inside the tasting room of Honcho. And one thing I want to emphasize is that, you know, I've been all around Japan as a travel agent, but I rarely see tasting rooms like this, or I rarely see factory tours like this. But anyways, here in the tasting room, you can taste many different types of the tsukemono here, and you can buy all types of the Honcho's products here, right here in the shop. もともと何のために工場を開けようとこういう部屋作ろうと思いましたんですか？
やっぱりですね、漬物のことをもっといろんな人に知ってもらいたいなっていうのが一番です。で、いろんな味をこう楽しめたら、もっと漬物にこう親しみ持ってもらえるかなと思って、始めたのがきっかけ。
And normally they don't do tasting here due to the current restrictions, but especially for a video, they're going to allow us to do tasting. Now I earlier made a mistake. I realized I made a mistake in the first part of the video. I said that Atsumi Kabu was prepared in 2 different ways, but Atsumi Kabu itself is only prepared in one specific way, the way that we saw in the factory. Again, it's fermented for 1 month and eaten. So once again, when you buy the Atsumi Kabu here in Japan or here in Tsuruoka, this is what it looks like. It comes in large packages like this, where it comes in large pieces just like this. But Homa-san, he actually recommends that when you eat it, that you slice it up into small pieces just like this. And so this is the way that Atsumi Kabu is most traditionally eaten here in Japan. You know, it's not really eaten raw, it's mostly eaten as tsukemono, and we're gonna try it right now. So we saw Atsumi Kabu in the fields. We had it in the fields. It was very spicy. It had some sweet flavor too, depending on the shape. And now we're going to taste what it tastes like when it's been fermented for 1 month. The flavor is totally different. It's more. I find there's a lot more sweet. Well, actually, some of the spices coming out as I chew. So one of the things I was talking to Homa-san, and one of the things I'm really struggling with right now, one of the things I'm having trouble with right now, is that it's very, very difficult to put the taste and the texture. It's very difficult to explain how tsukemono tastes. I can say in basic words, the texture and the flavor is totally different from the raw one. It's not quite as spicy, but it does have a lot more sweet flavor, and the vinegar kind of taste has kind of blended with that sweet, spicy flavor of the Atsumi Kabu. It's changed the texture dramatically. It's really good. It's very, very delicious. But that's one of the reasons why Homa-san, they set up the factory and they did the tasting here, because they believe the fastest way to make people understand is to let them try it themselves. So I'm sorry, I'm not able to explain quite well about how this tastes, but I can tell you that the flavors, the texture, everything has changed dramatically, and it's very, very delicious. So 今日は本当に本当に工場のツアーとテイスティングまで本当にありがとうございました。こちらこそありがとうございました。勉強になりました。ありがとうございました。ありがとうございます。Okay, everyone, so we just saw how Atsumi Kabu is prepared into tsukemono and how it's traditionally eaten. But since we do have some extra time, I want to actually present about how Atsumi Kabu can also be cooked as traditional vegetables. And to help me with that, we actually have a very special guide with us today. She's actually part of a special food group in Tsuruoka City. They're tasked with helping to present and also preserve the food culture, the UNESCO recognized food culture of Tsuruoka City. And her name is Tamaya-san.
はい、皆さんこんにちは、鶴岡フードガイドをしております山形県西川町の有限会社玉屋製麺所専務取締役をしております玉屋貴子と申します。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。今日は、鶴岡市のこの厚みかぶと合わせまして私たちがこちらの方で製麺所で作っている合算そば、そしてこの私たちの独自の技術で作っている桜パスタを合わせて、鶴岡フードガイドの立ち位置としてこの厚みかぶと一緒に新しい調理の仕方というふうなことをご紹介したいと思ってます。よろしくお願いいたします。
Alright, so first of all, we're going to be preparing some tempura and some salad with this Atsumi kabu. And so now we're going to learn how to prepare the Atsumi kabu from the base vegetable. Alright, so right now we're heating up the oil for the tempura. So Tamaya-san, she said that right here we just have some regular tempura batter.
もう入れちゃっていいですよ。
And we're just going to add it into there and lightly batter it. And then once the oil reaches the right temperature, what's interesting is that she's testing the temperature of the oil by dropping in small splashes of the tempura.
はい、じゃあこれを入れます。出来上がりました。
Alright, so we just finished frying our tempura right here. And earlier, Tamaya-san, she was explaining how when it comes to tempura for the Atsumi kabu, it's kind of a very recent cooking method. It's only been popularized very recently. And she mentioned how when we make tempura, usually we really deep fry some stuff, but for Atsumi kabu, because it's traditionally eaten raw or as lightly fermented tsukemono, we're just lightly frying this Atsumi kabu. So we only fried it for about 1 minute each. And then Tamaya-san was saying how if we do fry it like this, it helps bring out some of the sweetness, it helps change the texture, and it does look really good.
こんな感じでしてあげると美しいかと思います。はい。
美しいです。
入れます。
これ何分ぐらいします？
これは6分ぐらいですね。よくゴシゴシと洗ってあげるとぬめりが取れてそばが美味しくなるんですよ。
Okay, so right here we have our finished soba. And so Tamaya-san, she was telling me earlier about how the soba that her company makes, they grind all the soba down with an actual stone mill. And she says that by doing that, we get a lot richer flavors and really deep aroma. And so as we just took it out of the boiling water, I can already smell that really good aroma. そしてこのサラダ、これ特別ですか？これ山形の？
そうなんです。これ山形の西山杉っていう杉の木の箱になります。杉の香りとお蕎麦の香り、2つの香りを楽しんでもらうというのが山形の郷土料理の文化となっております。
Alright, so next up we're going to be making salad with the Atsumi kabu. And so Tamaya-san was telling me that just with this one vegetable we can make a salad dish. We can use the leaves. I mean, I believe in the field that we were explaining that the leaves are also edible. So we'll use the leaves as a salad, and then we'll also use the Atsumi kabu in the salad.
もう薄くできるだけ薄く。あ、素敵、バッチリ。
She's saying cut it as thin as possible. So right here, we're cutting off the stems off of the leaves here, and this part's quite soft, so we can eat this as salad.
もうちぎってもらえれば、はいはい。
これ
ちぎってもらっていいです。はい。
こういう感じですか？
はい。
Alright, so and then from this, here's our finished salad plate. これ綺麗ですね。 そしてこれは
これが茹でた桜パスタでオリーブオイルをかけて、そして塩コショウで、召し上がっていただくすごくシンプルな食べ方です。
Okay, and so here's our finished salad product. And so Tamaya-san was saying that we just put a little bit of olive oil and some salt on it, and it's also garnished with some of Tamaya-san's sakura pasta, her special sakura pasta. And she's saying how the reason why it goes so good as salad is because Atsumi Kabu has a beautiful red color on the outside and it has a very, very pure white color on the inside. So as a salad, it's just a very beautiful ingredient. Alright, and right here, thanks to our food guide Tamaya-san, we've prepared our Atsumi Kabu into today's dishes. So we have our salad here, our soba here, and our tempura. So all this goes very well together, and it's kind of a dish that Tamaya-san helped us prepare today. And for tempura, there's two main ways that we can season it. We can dip it inside the tempura sauce, just like this. But here in Japan, another popular way to eat tempura is by getting a little bit of salt, just a pinch, and then you actually sprinkle it on top. Just a little bit's fine too, just like this. So we're going to try it now, the Atsumi Kabu as tempura.
食感2つあるでしょ。
そうしました。外側はちょっと柔らかくなりました。
完全に火を通してしまってもいいんだけれども、一つの料理の中で2つの食感を楽しむためにはさっと揚げてあげるっていうのがコツなんですよ。
Okay, and last up we have the salad right here. So we have the salad with the olive oil, the salt, and also the leaves of the Atsumi Kabu. So what's really interesting about this salad right here, for one, it's very, very different from other salads that you might be used to. It has, just like it was in the fields, the leaves have that really, really spicy and really, really deep flavor, the same as the actual part of the Atsumi Kabu. And so for a salad, the texture, it has a very strong crunch and more of a kind of really fresh texture to it. And it also has that really, really deep flavor, the sweetness and the spiciness to it. So it's really unlike any salad I've ever had. And also with Tamaya-san's pasta too, it looks very, very delicious and it goes very well together. So the salad too is very unique, it's very delicious, and this is also a very, very delicious way to eat Atsumi Kabu. Alright, so from the field to the tsukemono factory and now to Tamaya-san's kitchen, we explored how Atsumi Kabu, one of the heirloom crops of Tsuruoka, is prepared in many different ways. And I just want to thank Tamaya-san again because I want to point out that the recipes that we used today were all created by her, and that she says that she has many more recipes. She was actually really had to think about which recipes she wanted to show for today's cooking, but she wanted to show some simple recipes that people could do at home. So, Tamaya-san, 今日は本当にありがとうございました。
こちらこそありがとうございます。
すごく美味しかったです。
何よりです。いやでもこの厚みかぶ自体が持っている力がすごいんだと思います。
で畑でも食べても美味しいし、漬物もすごい美味しいし、そして料理が何個でも何でも使えそうですので、
はい、熱を通して揚げることによって変化する味と食感っていう風なのを持っている、すごく無限大の力を持っているのがこの在来作物厚みかんかなっていうふうに思います。
ごめんなさい、今日はいろんな料理を教えていただきました。本当にありがとうございました。
こちらこそありがとうございます。
本当に勉強になりました。
はい、ありがとうございます。
Alright everyone, so I think that's going to be it for our video today. So we saw how Atsumi Kabu is grown, we saw how it's harvested, we saw how it's made into tsukemono, and we saw how it's cooked in traditional cooking techniques. So I think being able to see it from start to finish and to be able to try it in so many different ways really gives you a deeper understanding of these crops here, these heirloom crops here, and why they're so special, and why that they require such special techniques to grow them. And so everything you saw in this video I want to emphasize are things that you can do if you come to Japan. So if you want to get a better understanding of Tsuruoka's heirloom crops, please come out and visit. We'll leave a link below with some information, and please feel free to contact me. I'd be happy to help answer any questions you have. And I'd also be happy to help arrange your trip as well. So Jane, thank you so much for giving us a chance to introduce Tsuruoka City and its Atsumi Kabu. I do hope that you can come visit Japan soon. So thank you so much.